Thank you for taking the time to click on this video. I promise you I will throw all my energy into this subject to help you get to grips with it. I have many years of experience and like to keep up to date with research and developments. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you wish to post. All I ask in return is for 1 minute of your time to like and share, or maybe even subscribe, as this makes a huge difference to me to be able to put these videos together. Again, thank you and enjoy. So here we have the glands, size they are, because they're written on there, you can just see that. 2 meaning number of conductors, L meaning it's light duty, and the 1.5 mean it's 1.5 mil squared. As opposed to this one, so this one here, you can see where it is, hopefully you can see that, and that is a 4H10, so that means 4 cores, heavy duty, mineral insulated, and 10 mil, so 4 10 mil conductors. You can see difference in size. Show you this one because they're all made up the same. When you buy them in large packs, they tend to come in packs of 2. Inside you get the gland body and you get an olive, and in the back locking up. On the 2015 exactly the same. So standard 20 mil thread. In the back there have an olive which is going to clamp down on your cable once you finally tighten it up. On the end then you put your pots and seals, and when you buy that you get a pack of these things here. So you get the pot, you get the seals, you get some compound, and you get some sleeving. And this one, because it's an earth tail pot, as you can see, it's got an earth sticking out of it. They give you a bit of green and yellow as well, but you can buy these as non-earth tail, so they don't have that in there at all. See, when you get these are made for specific sizes again. So you'll see 2L. I can put that on. You can quite see that, but 2L 1.5 is written on the pot, and that's got a self-tapping thread, which is going to screw onto the end of the cable, and then the seal, because this is a 3-core. Will become a 3-core 2L15, then got 3 on there. Okay, so if you have a non-earth tail pot, you'll just have 2. And then you may, depending on the colour of your cable, you might have an orange one, but you have a shroud and you buy packs of these and you'll buy this for the colour of the cable, unless you've got bare cable, and that's what we're going to use. And then you've got the clips to go with it, and obviously the specific size and colour clip for whatever that happens to be. So it's the bare, orange and a white one. There'll be red and there's black as well. So they're the component parts. So that's the order of which you're going to put them on, and we're going to make them off. So let's get round to making this thing off then. So we basically going to make this off into this box, and when we're basically bending this cable, we do not want to use metal tools like hammers. So if you are going to use a hammer, it needs to be a rubber-ended mallet of some description, or a block of wood to hit if you're going to manipulate this cable in any way, shape or form. So what we do, we mark this up to the point where it enters the box. I'll just show you then, because the gland, when it goes in, the pot and seal go inside the gland. And if I just show this, I know the camera angle doesn't quite show it off to its full potential, but when you pull the gland back where it sits directly up to the box, you'll see that the knurled edge is right on the edge of the box, and that is where the mineral insulated cable gets cut back to. So we're going to mark back to that point there. And then we're going to use the joy stripper. This is my joy stripper used from a long time ago. And we're going to mark the width of the barrel, because that's where it needs to stop, because the blade is on the end. Now, who can tell me what this is? Anyone of a certain age will know what this is. And this is an original. I went through my boxes, I found a few that were dried up, and I found this one. It still had it in. It's still got a little bit of Vaseline, I'm guessing that's what it is. But that used to come with all your pots and seals, and the best thing you can ever do is put a little bit on the cable. Sadly, they don't provide it anymore. And this just aids with the cutting of it. Now, when using the joy stripper, which is my preferred method, the cable needs to be as straight as possible, so you don't want to be working it or doing anything. And we're going to set it to 2L15. As you can see, it's got all other sizes. but this will only do up to a certain size, and if you want to use anything bigger, then you can either use a T-bar or anything else, but to be honest, let's use these, and they do a bigger version of this, which is then adjustable to the size of cable that you may be working on. So your cable fits in, and then this is the cutting blade. And basically when you're spinning that round, the bit of cable that comes off the outer sheath, it goes over that hook. So let's put this on, making sure the cable is in straight as we possibly can, not working the cable. Just making sure the end is square, so I don't know, I say square, I mean it's not, it's all round so that fits on. And that one isn't quite there, so I'm just rounding it off a little bit. Just so I can get the barrel over. As soon as you get the barrel over, with it secure in place, just keep rotating, and I haven't used this since the 90s, and you can see it still works very well indeed. So we just keep on rotating, getting rid of the excess if you need to, cut it off if you're stripping back a fair bit. Keep going, keep going. And when we get close to the end, what we want to do is we're going to not mess about with ringing tools or anything silly like that. We're going to get a pair of pliers, and carefully we're going to put the pliers on the back mark that we put on, which is I'm indicating there. And we're just going to hold that in position and then wind up to that, and what that will do is that will ring it off and it will cut it nice and square so we can aid putting our pot and seal on. Now what we mustn't do is leave this now, because this is what's known as hygroscopic, so don't blow into it. It's actually quite a damp day on the day I'm doing this, but not the ideal conditions. And we get our gland, the pot and seal go inside, make sure the olive is in there, and that's all going to fit in. Put it in the right way, obviously. And then the pot wrench, tighten that up. And we want to go, we're not going to crush it in there, we're not going to try and do that, we just want to go beyond hand tight to secure it. And why use this? Well, when you use this, you know it goes on square. And then when the gland slides over it, it will go over the pot and seal. If you did it by hand, sometimes they can go on a bit wonky and they don't actually want to sit in very well. So this helps guide it on, go in nice and square, getting the olive lined up. Slide it over. And once that's slid over, make sure they don't get tangled up in the end. And applying pressure in the downwards towards, pushing it onto the cable, turn it round, you'll hear it will make a noise. If it's making sort of a squeaking noise, that means it's going on. And we need to wind it round so the mineral insulated cable becomes flush with the bottom of the pot. And because we've got the 2L15 with the earth tail pot, they're going to be in a triangle formation, so we need to turn it so the conductors are also in a triangle formation and not in a straight line. So they all basically, when they go through the seal, they're all lined up and don't have to move very much. Not very easy to see in there, but they're lined up, and they go round a little bit more. So we get it in that triangle, so that's all I'm trying to do. So we're not going all the way through, we're not going to wind all the way through, flush with the top, make sure it's level. And then when we take this off, making sure that you hold the gland body and don't twist it, because otherwise you'll undo the pot. Unwind that. And we now know that that's completely on, and as you can see it slides over that pot and seal. So what I now tend to do not blow into it, is put the ends of the cable through the pot and seal, because we can still see as they come out. And then we get our compound. Using the compound that comes with it, try not to put your fingers on it, keeping it as clean as possible, going in from one end and pushing in and in through those conductors. Putting in more than you probably think, so try and overfill it slightly, but pushing it in. So if you push it in one side, it will push the air out the other, so you end up with no air whatsoever. Like I say, trying not to touch it. So I'm using the plastic to push that in. So you know you've got plenty in there. And then push them down as far as you can, get rid of the excess. Now what I tend to do now is, before we crimp it, I will now get the insulation resistance tester and test it. So for that, we need to make sure the other end is not touching. So on 500 volts, insulation resistance, let's just make sure our meter works and we know what to expect. So there's the end of the cable. I can see that they're maybe just touching a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strip a tiny amount off, just about 10 mil or so. I mean, I could get a junior hacksaw and just cut it. But I'm going to make the end off anyway. So make sure the conductors aren't touching and they're not touching the sheath. Remember that it's hygroscopic, so it will constantly take moisture in. So let's check the tester. 500 volts, leads open, greater than 500. Leads together, 0. So obviously we do not want a 0, we don't want a dead short. So I'm going to put insulation resistance tester between live conductors. And you can see we've got a reading of 2.34 or thereabouts, and it's stuck around that. And what the manufacturers say, they recommend anything below, I believe it's 100 mega ohms is what you should be looking for. But if you look, if I'm just going to strip this off just a little bit more, and I used to take off about another 10 mil, and it's gone up to 12. You can see I haven't even, I say 10 mil, about 10 mil total. And I go back about another 20 mil I've taken off of there, and all of a sudden it's gone on to greater than 500. The manufacturer reckons that this won't go more than 50 mil in. So I know between conductors, and now I'm going to test between earth, between that live conductor and earth, and then the other live conductor and earth. So I now know that this end that I'm about to crimp is okay. And why do I do this? Well, if I just made off both ends and then tested afterwards, I've got to guess which end may be down. So only now do I now crimp it, and here's my crimper, which I've now cleaned up. I've not used it for a very long time, so the compound had set somewhat, so you can see I've scratched it up a little bit. And making sure the pot fits in there, and that sits in there very nicely, so undo it enough. That sits in tight. Don't turn the pot, make sure you hold that body and tighten it up. And what that will do is that will put 3 prongs and crimp down the end of the pot down, holding that seal in place. And you should be making sure that the seal goes on square and it will sit flush. And you can see some compounders come out. And if I undo that, making sure you hold that body, undo that, and then slide it off. And you can see compounders come out. And remove that excess. And now we've crimped it, and there's the points it's gone down on, and it's sitting flush. We're going to put the sleeving on. So cut your sleeving to size. It goes right down to the base of the seal, so over those little black bits that stick out of the seal, so slide them right over. And now we've got the end. And we're going to do another insulation resistance test. Now I've got it crimped just to make sure it's still okay. So this has taken me probably 5 minutes or so to actually do. So live down to earth, that one's fine. That live down to earth, and it's dropped a little bit from just a few minutes it's taken me. Like I say, it is a damp day. So I'm just going to strip that back slightly more at the other end. And you can see it's gone over range again. So you can see why it's said to be hygroscopic. It will absorb the moisture from the air. So you don't want to leave ends exposed. And then test between live conductors. And we've got greater than 500. So we now know that this end is perfectly fine. So when we come to test the other end and it's down, we know it's the end you've just done and not this one. So this is now ready to put into the box. So let's speed this up and show that it goes into the box. Now when you used it like this, what this does, the pot and seal, you can see protrudes into the box a reasonable amount. And depending what accessory you've got on there, it may obstruct it. And providing you've got enough room, that's all fine. The last thing you would actually tighten up would be that back nut, which compresses the olive. If you don't do it at the moment, it's still got a bit of movement. You can slide it forward, and you then tighten that one up last. But once you crimp that olive up, it won't move. Right, let's show you one more alternative. This one using a coupler and a bush. Whilst going through my bits, I come across a bush that I'd used from the 90s and the modern day one, and you can see they are massively different. The threads are shorter on the one on the left hand side, which is the modern one, and when I put them side by side they're actually a different size, which would explain why my bush banner does no longer fit modern day bushes. So we're going to put the coupler on. Why do this? Well, it allows you a bit of tolerance, because now we can make that off, terminate that in. That will then screw into there, but you don't need your pot now to protrude into the box. So as you can see, it's much cleaner. You've got more room inside the box, but also what this allows you is you have a bit of tolerance, because this can now slide in and out inside the coupler. So you've got all this play look that you can play about with, so you don't have to be so exact. Obviously you can be, but this is an alternative. And then if you've had it on a shroud, the shroud then can cover the entire thing, obviously, if you'd had it, and you wouldn't see any of this. But let's go back to the original one, because that's the way we were doing it, and we know the accessory is going to go on there. And we're going to make the other end off into a stop end or a terminal box. And we're going to clip that in place. As you can see, I've just looped back on myself just to show you. This is a demonstration. It's not for any purpose really, just to other than show you. So we dress the cable into its location. So I've bent it into configuration, and we need to mark, and this is where you can see I've already started the joy stripper, because this is the end I slightly stripped beforehand. So that's the order of which it's all going in. And we're going to thread up to that point there. That's going to sit in, and we're going to mark, once it's dressed, mark the cable at the start of the box. And then the distance of the barrel on the joy stripper back, which is not far off the size of the pot and seal. Mark that back, because that's where we're going to stop it. And remember, that's where we put our pliers on, and we're going to very quickly make this one off again. And then do exactly the same to make that end off, and screw it on and repeat. And then on the insulation resistance test, let's test it again. Between live to earth. And you can see that's all good. If you weren't sure and it wasn't quite good enough, what you can always do, and it's always a good practice thing to do, is give them a tug, give them a pull. So if they are slightly down, if they're shorting out, then save taking it apart, you can pull them. And that's on more often than not, that clears the fault. And now we test again and make sure it's all okay. And I have. Now we need to do is check polarity. So you can do this on insulation resistance, but I'm going to do it on continuity. It doesn't matter about the readings. We were just trying to identify them. Because I can reach the ends, obviously I can just, what's known as bell it out, and just get each conductor so I know that one and that one are the same. But if you weren't, and there was too far away that you couldn't reach, then what you do is put one down to earth, go the other end, put one end of your leads on earth, and then one end on the conductors, and see which one it is, and you can identify it that way, and then sleeve them accordingly. And then do that up. This is Sparky Help. Thank you very much.